Sunday, Chavtes Tevis, Tovshin Ayin Vov. We're beginning a new Mamar Vayihiyu Chayei Sara in Teres Menachem Sefer Mamar Tovshin Yud Gimel on page Lametes. Vayihiyu Chayei Sara, Mea Shana ve'esrim Shana ve'sheva Shanim Shnei Chayei Sara. The pasuk says, the verse states, the opening verse of Pashas Chayei Sara states, and the life of Sarah was 100 years, 20 years, and 7 years. Now the reason why the word shana, years, is written by each and every digit, by each and every complete number, Meya shana, ve'esrim shana, ve'sheva shanim, 100 years, 20 years, and 7 years, instead of saying simply 127 years, Hulahagid, it is to teach us, to tell us, Shvocha shel Sarah, the praise of Sarah. What was the praise of Sarah? Kipirish Rashi, as Rashi explains, Umekeide b'Medrash, and the source of Rashi's explanation is in the Medrash. Bas chof kibas zayin, or bas kuf kibas chof. It comes to compare Sarah's ages at the different stages of her life to each other, meaning to say that at the age of 20, she was like at the age of 7, in a certain sense, and at the age of 100, she was like at the age of 20, in a certain sense. Rashi goes on to say that at the age of 20, she was like the age of 7 for beauty, just like she had the pure beauty of a child at the age of 7. That's what she was like in that sense at the age of 20. And at the age of 100, she was like at the age of 20 for sin. It says in Chazal, Talmud says, Rashi brings it, it's brought in different poskim, that up until the age of 20, a person is not a bar onshin, even though the person is obligated from bar mitzvah or bas mitzvah in all the mitzvahs, but in terms of punishment, that only begins at the age of 20. We find, one of the sources is, we find that in the midbar of the desert, when Hashem decreed that the generation of the desert should die out because of the sin of the Meraglim, the Egel, it was from the age of 20 to 60, right? They would die on their 60th birthday, but it was only for the people that from the age of 20 and up. Anybody that was younger at that time, when the events took place, was not included in that decree. So, similarly, Sarah was at the age of 100, like at the age of 20, in relation to sin, or rather not sinning, meaning to say that she was pure of sin, clean of sin. Well, the Fiza Tzarech Lavin, says the Rebbe, according to this we need to understand, what does the verse add at the end of the verse when it says Shnei Chayei Sara? The pasuk says Vayihiyu Chayei Sara, Mea Shana ve'esrim Shana ve'sheva Shanim, Shnei Chayei Sara. And the life of Sarah was 100 years, 20 years, and 7 years. This is the life, this is the years of Sarah's life.
So does that mean that if somebody murdered somebody 18 years old, they didn't get punished?
Well, there's among the poskim, there is a machlekes, a difference of opinion, what it refers to. If it refers to punishments by the hand of God or by Bezdin, down here. There's a long discussion about that. And in relation, if it's only in relation to Koros, which is B'dei Shemayim, being cut off, which is by the decree of Hashem. So it's a long discussion. Differences of opinion. But going back to the Maimer, the Rebbe says the verse ends off by saying these are the years of Sarah's life. What does the pasuk add? Ma meisif b'siyum hakosov shnei chayei Sara al ma shekosov kvar lifnei. What does he add with adding these words? What is he adding on what he said already earlier? He already said that she was at the age of 20 like at the age of 7, at the age of 100 like at the age of 20. What are you adding with repeating these are the years of Sarah's life? So Rashi also notes this, and he says, Rashi explains, Shekulam shavim l'teva. that when the pasuk says, when the verse ends off by saying, these are the years of Sarah's life, it comes to add that they were all equal in goodness. They were all equal for good. Says the Rebbe, according to this, it's not understood the other way around. It seems to imply, when you say they were all equal, that there were no differences. What did you just finish telling me? That she was at the age of 100 like at the age of 20, at the age of 20 like at the age of 7, that there were differences. Madua mono bitchila kol prat bifnei atzmai. If this is the case, why in the beginning of the verse does he enumerate every detail separately? The meya shan of esrim, shan of sheva shanim. Why does he break it down in these different categories of 100 years, 20 years, and 7 years? Harikulam shavul l'tevi. He just finished saying in the last part of the verse that they were all equal for good. Then it also, the only thing that the verse should have stated is the last point, general point. That these were the years of Sarah's life, that they were all equal for good. So there seems to be some kind of strange type of correlation of phrases in this pasuk.
Unless you're just saying that it's not going to do with goodness. Because one is limited by saying they're to goodness, but they might have been equal in other aspects. Obviously, yes, you're going to say that.
Oh, okay. So, Lamehen was the Rebbe sagt. So, in other words, they're both true. Mm-hmm. Both statements are true.
Jewish.
So let's see what this is all about. However, says the Rebbe, the explanation is this: the Hine Bezoyar Hiksha, and the Zoyar asks a question on this pasuk. Why, in relation to Sarah, are the years of her life actually stated in the Torah? We don't find this by any of the other matriarchs. We only find this concerning Sarah. Why? What was unique about Sarah that the pasuk finds it necessary to enumerate her actual the time that she lived, the actual years that she lived? That we don't find this by any of the other matriarchs. The Zohar there explains the Asas Chaval Alma. In fact, the Zohar's question is asked. The Zohar asks, why do we find it only concerning the Sarah? We don't find this concerning any other women that the Torah mentions. Why the Rebbe says over here all other matriarchs? I'm not really sure. Maybe we have to look in the other Mamorim that bring this question, whether they also they bring matriarchs or they widen it. But be that as it may, also concerning the other imahas, the other matriarchs, the Torah also does not enumerate the days of their life, the years of their life. The Zohar there explains the Os Chava La'alma. Chava came into this world v'izdabkas bechivya, and she clung and she became connected to the snake. Meaning to say that something negative came out as a result of her experience in this world. Instead of her bringing a positivity and tikkun into the world, it was the other way around. Also, for example, Noah came into this world. Maksiv Bey, what does it say concerning Noah? He drank from the wine and became drunk. Again, the idea of causing something negative. However, also Sarah, when Sarah came, v'nachses v'salkas, she descended and ascended. Meaning to say that she descended into this world, and when she ascended from this world, she ascended complete, whole. She brought tikkun into the world. As you say, as it is stated in the verse, Vayal Avram mimitzrayim, and Avram ascended from Egypt, hu v'ishtay, he and his wife, and everything and all his possessions, and so on and so forth. Meaning to say, Mitzrayim represents the idea of the lowest descent in this world, and despite the fact that they descended into Egypt, into the lowest aspects of this world, they ascended. Not only them, but all their possessions and all their belongings, representing what? The nitzutzes, the divine sparks of divine energy that are embedded within these various elements. They extracted them and they lifted them. And because of this, Sarah merited the upper life, the celestial life, the ruchnistic life. In other words, she lived, her life experience was different than all the other women mentioned in the Torah. Vayihiyu, this means to say, says the Rebbe, that the descent of Avraham and Sarah into Egypt was in such a manner that not only did they not descend from their level, and they exited from their whole, spiritually whole, but even more so, they refined the sparks of divine energy that were within Egypt, as it says in the verse, and Avram ascended from Egypt, and Avram, the verse continues and says, Avram was very heavy, was laden, with cattle, with silver and gold. Cattle, silver and gold, in the deeper sense representing the Nitzutzes Kedusha, the sparks of the divine holy energy that was deeply embedded within Egypt, which he extracted from there. So in that sense, Sarah was different. That's what the Zohar says. Chapter 2, Ois Beis. V'hine Yodua, it is known, says the Rebbe, Shemaise Oveis Simele Bonim, that the experiences of our forefathers, which is a catch-all phrase for our predecessors, meaning not only the patriarchs, but also the matriarchs, Simele Bonim, that is a sign and a infusion of strength and empowerment for their offspring, for us. Meaning to say, in our context, moving from this is understood, She'aliyas Avraham v'Sara b'Mitzrayim, that the ascent of Avraham and Sarah from Egypt, was an empowerment la'avedas b'nei Yisrael b'yesem megalos Mitzrayim, for the work, as it were, the spiritual work, the service of Hashem, that the Bnei Yisrael, the children of Israel, needed to accomplish whilst they were in the Egyptian exile. Which means that not only not only should the exile not cause a descent within them, but on the contrary, that they should refine and purify and lift the sparks of divine holy energy that are embedded deeply within the exile. As it says in the verse that Hashem said to Avraham Avinu during the covenant that he made with him, the Bris Ben Absarim, he said, that your children and your offspring will be foreigners in a land that is not theirs, and etc., etc. And then they will exit, Yetzu, Birchush Gadol, with great wealth. What is this idea of the Rechush Gadol in the spiritual sense? We're talking about the great wealth that is accomplished, that is accumulated by the person in the spiritual sense, meaning extracting the Nitzutzes Kedusha, as it were, the sparks of divine energy that are deeply embedded in Golus, that are extracted through the experience of a Yid being in Golus. Move on. From this it's understood, by definition, just like the experience of our predecessors was an empowerment for the Bnei Yisrael, the children of Israel, in the Egyptian exile, this also by definition, as it were, is understood. We transfer this on, the same idea, also in relation to this last exile in which we find ourselves. That also the descent into this exile, we are empowered, we have the empowerment, we have the strength that exile should not affect us in any way. But Yisrael can even more so, not only should the exile not affect us, but even more so, we are empowered to be able to refine, to lift the sparks of divine energy that are within Golus, that are within exile, that are concealed within exile. Top of page Mem, what is the idea behind this? Our sages say, the Gemara says, Talmud says, that the whole purpose, the whole reason why Hashem exiled the Jewish people among the nations of the world is only for the purpose of adding converts to them, to the Jewish people. A statement in the Gemara. Says the Rebbe, if this is to be taken literally, it's not understood. Why? What is the relationship, says the Rebbe, between, what's the ratio between the amount of converts that were accumulated through all the time that we're in exile relative to the number of Jewish people? Says the Rebbe, the number of converts that were added to the Jewish nation during our experience in exile is very minute. And the number of Jews that were exiled is very abundant. To such an extent that the ratio between the number of converts relative to the number of Jews is tiny. Says the Rebbe, if this is the case in a movement, it's not understood. How is it possible that it pays, it's worthwhile to exile so many Jews for such a tiny number of converts? It seems to be, what's the word? Disproportionate. And unfairly so. If we think about the tzaras that Yidden experienced, the travails and tribulations that we experienced throughout our experience in exile. So what's the pshat? Says the Rebbe, there's a deeper sense to this idea of Gedim. Not only in the literal sense, but there's a much deeper meaning to Gedim, converts. However, says the Rebbe, the Pirush Gedim b'Maimar Azal Zeh, the definition of Gedim, converts, in this statement in the Talmud, it's really a reference to all the sparks of holiness, the divine sparks of energy that are concealed and embedded within exile. This goes to the idea of Shviras HaKelim, right? The breaking of the vessels, the famous Kabbalistic idea of the breaking of the vessels and the sparks of holiness falling into very, very low and deep concealed places, and our job to extract them and lift them back into Kedusha. So this is the idea of Gedim. Gedim, converts, is a reference to Nitzutzes Kedusha, holy sparks of divine energy that are deeply concealed, very, very deep in exile. Dihine, how is that? What's the metaphor of a convert? Says the Rebbe, Inyan Ager, who the idea of a convert is that first he was from the nations of the world, which are very distant from godliness. For as the Talmud says at the end of the Menachos, the Korulei Elakadei Elakaya, they refer to God as the God of gods. There, the Gemara Menachos discusses towards the end. One of the Amoraim says that from Tzor until this and this place, they know about Jews and they know about the Jewish God. But from this place to the east and from this place to the west, I don't remember exactly what it is, they don't. Comes another Amir and says, I have a question. We learned, it says in the Pasuk, etc., etc., from which we are taught that the nations of the world do know about God. So he answers, yes, you're right, they know, but they refer to him as the God of gods. And they don't worship him. Meaning to say that it's a reference to idolaters, right? So B'meila he says, what's a convert? A convert is someone who was first distant from godliness, very distant from godliness. V'yesed al kain, even more so, not only is this an idea of, again, someone who first referred to Hashem as the God of gods, but even more so, this idea, when you call Hashem the God of gods, we learned about this in previous Mamorim, in Toshni Aleph, if you remember, about Shituf, about Avodah Zarah, and so on and so forth. So he says that from having this approach, this could mutate into an attitude of Ani v'Avsiyait, I exist and nothing besides me exists, which is the coarsest form of idolatry, self-worship. Benimtza, so was kommt us? What's the result of all this? What is accomplished through conversion? The idea of conversion is that through the process of conversion, there takes place the refinement, the lifting of these divine sparks of holy energy, of godly energy, to lift them from where they've fallen. Not only is it transformed to holiness, Elohu meisiv chayes b'kedusha. Not only does one extract through the process of conversion that divine energy, but even more so, process itself adds life into the side of holiness as well. In addition to just, as it were, redeeming the divine energy that was, as it were, in exile, the process also adds chayes, energy, into the side of kedusha, of holiness, which as the Rebbe will explain. So again, using this as a model, as the Rebbe says, for the wider idea of Avedus Birurim, serving Hashem through the process known as Birurim, refining, extracting the sparks of divine energy, and lifting them to Kedusha, which is the idea of Geirim, because, as the Rebbe said, we cannot explain the Gemara in its simple sense, that it's just for converts in the simple sense. It must have a wider connotation in terms of Avedus Birurim. The Inyan Birurim, what is the idea of refinement, of this process of refinement we talk about? It's the idea of transforming those matters that are being refined to transform them to holiness. To the extent that from them there should be an additional infusion of life and energy into the side of holiness. For the general idea of serving Hashem through the process of refinement, that takes place where? This is the idea of interacting with the physical matters, aspects of this world. For through the descent of the soul into the body, the soul has an attachment and association with physical matters, particularly in the time of exile. That physical matters have many hindrances and blockages, and they cause a lot of concealments and covers ungodliness. And through refining them, through refining them, not only do the physical matters now not oppose holiness, not even in a manner of referring to godliness as the God of gods, meaning some recognition, albeit not complete, but even more so, the Yisrael, not only do we reduce their opposition, even more so, they are transformed to holiness, and they add into the general side and phenomena of holiness, as the Rebbe will explain later on. In other words, not only are they themselves redeemed, so to speak, but they add energy into Kedusha as well.